Okay.
Hi, hi, Eagle Spitz here from Punk for Homeless. With Desert Island Vids, but we're not on the Eclectic Virtual Festival today. We're on Girls Are Loud. With me, I've got Rachel Joy Eagling. Hi, Rachel. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you, husband.
Yeah, cool.
Very strange being upstairs and you being downstairs, but I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, good, good. So you're involved in Punk for the Homeless?
Yeah.
But whilst people have different roles, would you like to explain what you see your role as in Punk for the Homeless?
Yeah, I suppose I've always been involved with the homeless, so it's getting on for 30 odd years ago now that I started working at the Albion in Nottingham, which was basically a very old-fashioned night shelter. You queue up at the door, and when we'd got 50 people in the building, the door was closed. So people queued, and it was first come, first served. It was a massive disused church hall, and it had metal beds side by side. They had tiny little metal lockers, you know, the ones you used to have at swimming baths, and no curtains. So if somebody pissed the bed, for example, you'd have to just mop under somebody else who was asleep. At that time, I worked with 47 men and 3 women. And I always said I would swap every single woman for another 47 men. Because in my experience, most men have spent their formative years with a woman. So if you raise your voice a little bit and you mean what you say, they do as told. Whereas women tend to stand their ground, which is what I would expect of my own sex. So I've always been involved.
With husbands as well?
Yeah. You do as you're told eventually. Or die, not the other. So I've always worked with homeless people. But then many years later, I was in a really bad place. And I decided to pray to God for somebody to love. And God had bigger ideas than me. So he gave me you. He gave me Punk for the Homeless. And he gave me all the people who come with Punk for the Homeless. But my role has always been very different. When we married and you moved to Nottingham and we did some gigs at the Doghouse, they were quite poorly attended. I suppose part of the problem is people are too lazy. It was barely 20-minute bus ride from the city centre, but unless it's in the city centre, nobody's interested. So sadly, we moved from the Doghouse, working with Baz, to the Foresters, which is a fab pub, and John really accepted us. It was during those gigs that I decided to start to try and feed people, partly because I think feeding people is a great leveller, and it makes people more than just acquaintances who attend a gig together. It's people who break bread together, and there comes a love. So while we were in the Foresters, being a bit of an idiot, I bought all the fruit, chopped it all up, and handed it all round. And I think it created a different bond between me and the people who were attending the gig. Because obviously they know what you do. I'm never quite sure, but you usually roll around on the floor with your shoes and your socks on, shouting into a mic. You know all these bands. Your knowledge of music escapes me. But I think God put us together for a reason. We're a team. And since we moved from the Foresters to the Sumac, where we've been getting on for 6 years now, which seems amazing, we encountered People's Kitchen, which was run from the Sumac Centre and was an affordable way of sharing a community meal. And so very early on, with very few allies at the beginning, we set to, didn't we, dear? We talked to a garden centre about what they were going to chuck away, and we went and collected that food and basically played Ready, Steady, Cook for a few months. So we got food in the house, cut off the bad bits, kept the good bits, and fed people with it. And over the last 6 years, we've become I don't know, grounded really in what we do at the sumac. Fortunately for us, we ended up with a Hannah Bigger. So we got a woman who is an exceptional vegan chef to come on board. And she's been astounding. I can't say thank you enough to Hannah. But at a gig, most of you who've been will know I'm the one who gives hugs. There's no point in having huge breasts if you don't hug people, as apart from feeding babies, that's the only other thing they're for. So I don't know, I'm the one that gives hugs, puts merch out, sells you a t-shirt, and the first time you know of me normally is when Eagle shouts, "Rach, I want some, I lost some," whatever. And I'm the one who uses Facebook to keep up with people. So I might never remember whose band you're in, unless you're my broker. But I will know if you're sick or if your wife's sick. And my role is very different, but complementary, I think.
Okay, I guess we can't. I mean, we mustn't forget you and Corinne for a couple of years helping with the food either.
Yeah. Hugh and Corinne from Nottingham Animal Rights were absolutely amazing and helped us some more. And all power to Hugh, really, doing his own business. I think it's called No Homers. So if you look it up, he makes beautiful vegan meats. So thanks to Corinne and Hugh as well.
Okay, so what's your first choice of songs, Rachel?
Well, my first choice of song was going to be Hazel O'Connor's Will You? But somebody chose it the other day on Design Vids. And I love that song because when I was a teenager and I was at home and Hazel O'Connor's Breaking Glass series was on, I loved it. It said something completely different to me. And the haunting refrains of, "You drink your coffee." It was all a bit, this is me. But instead of that, I think my first song, I'm going to choose Saint Plan pour moi. Because I love nothing more than, I suppose it goes kind of A, sleeping, B, dancing, C, Eagle and Reuben. I love a good dance. So Saint Plan pour moi, crank it up, dance around your living room, feel a lot better. That and Oliver's Army do it for me.
So that's Plastic Bertrand.
Plastic Bertrand.
Yeah, that's a chap. So you can find those videos in the links when this is posted. And today is Sunday, the third day of Punk for Homeless Girls Are Loud. So tell us a little bit about Girls Are Loud, because you're very much involved in that over the weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, it was my silly idea, really, to come up with the words Girls Are Loud, because I just thought it was funny. Because obviously Girls Are Loud are a bit of a shit band and their name is known. So I thought it was funny being punk and doing a gig for women to be called Girls Are Loud. So that was the original Girls Are Loud, and we did this gig for the girls in the orphanage. One thing I did notice at that gig is when the girls spoke to, for example, our band members over the internet, over a mobile phone, their attitude changed. You know, afterwards, when you've spoken to somebody and you feel like you're close enough to have felt their breath and feel their life, then you're more motivated to make a change because it's personable. And I think all of us have lived through times where we know that Oxfam CEOs, Save the Children CEOs are all up to dodgy dealing. So you worry about where the money's going. And certainly in the time we've been together, we've been accused of creaming it and taking money away from starving children. But that couldn't be further from the truth. And all the money goes where it says it goes. And so it's wonderful to see the videos of Sassy and the girls and how stoic they are, and despite having so little.
Yeah, but one of the things which really sort of touched my heart was the fact that there was actually feeding street children. You have the girls
Wow.
and Sessa.
So not only enough to take in 74 of other people's children who have sadly died, and care for them. But to have such a big heart for them people who are outside the gates who've got nowhere to go, that is their concern. And Sase said in lockdown, that was his concern. He could afford to feed just about, with people's help, the children he'd got with him. But what about those children outside? Who cares? And it's wonderful to see that Sase and the girls still care. It's not a case of how it seems to be in this country of, oh, I've migrated here, okay, 2 generations ago, but we want to shut the doors now. We want to stop other people coming and getting what we've got. There was none of that. It's about humanity and caring about people and children. And that speaks to me because I love a good baby. You know I do.
So moving on quickly from babies, what's your next song?
My next song is, it's been chosen really for the video as well as the song, and it's My Girlfriend's Dead by the Vandals. And the video is exceptional. Not only is the song something that lifts my heart, makes my feet tap, makes me want to dance. And when my son and my stepdaughter were tiny, it'd be cranked up and they'd be running around the living room, these tiny little people singing My Girlfriend's Dead. Maybe it was bulimia, you know. And not to trivialize death, but I do think I've often thought that part of the problem with our culture is the lack of acceptance of death as being part of life. And I'm fortunate. I grew up in a church with over 60% West Indians, and their approach to death is very different. And I've been privileged enough to dig enough people into a grave, to sing and to dance around a grave, to attend homes where the husband has died and sit with the woman for hours on end. And I do think we need to do that. So for me, the funny side of My Girlfriend's Dead is watching a stick person be killed. It kind of, I don't think it trivializes it, but what it does is it's comedic, it's funny, it's clever, and I like my Skater Boys a bit though.
Yeah, you like the Vandals and stuff, don't you?
I do. I like the band.
Yeah, we'll like the music to put a smile on our face. Occasionally, even me.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll get, as you call me.
Maybe you ought to tell your face. I always say Eagle is happy. He just didn't tell his face yet.
So, obviously, we're in lockdown at the moment.
We are.
And there's over 100 million street children in the world.
Yep.
I mean, what are your hopes and fears for it all?
My hopes are that we can save a few. You know that story of somebody chucking jellyfish back and starfish back into the ocean and somebody saying, well, what's the point? And he said, well, it makes a difference to that jellyfish or starfish. And I think we do a bit of the same, really. I want to try and keep them alive and give them promise as much as we can. And I think it's so easy to think, oh, there are too many, the problem's too big, and I can't do anything. And I think sometimes you can be forgiven for that paralysing you, stopping you doing anything. And so the problem just gets exponentially bigger. Whereas if you knuckle down and you think, well, I'll do something, and you crack on, then you can make a difference. You know, look at the first money that we sent over to the orphanage. Getting videos back of Sase buying bags of rice and food for the girls and fuel and stuff. And at first I thought, well, this is a bit weird because I knew that's what he was going to spend it on and I didn't really need to see him buying it. But to see him buying it, you realise that if my child was in a situation where both of us were dead and somebody else was looking after them and they weren't taking things from him and they were going out and feeding him and buying rice, that's what I'd want, Eagle. The thought of somebody else's baby having nobody is beyond my comprehension. They are loved by God and loved by us, and we have to act in loco parentis. We have to love them with everything that we have. And my fear is there'll be more children, people, because I don't care if they're adults or children, to be honest. I work with homeless adults, and I'm terrified when I look at the news in this country and it says, you know, the dice are loaded against black and ethnic minority people. The dice are loaded against poor people. And I know people who struggle in normal times. So to have no income, to be scared of losing your property, and be frightened of losing your life is just, it's almost too much to bear. And I just find it really rich that people who will have looked down on homeless people will find themselves in the same boat, and they'll want my help. They'll want our help. And all I ask of all of you is just think if it was you or your baby or your brother. And I see them as that. They are my babies. They are my sisters and my brothers. We cannot live alone. You cannot survive in isolation. And I think that's what we're finding. Most days I cry. The thought of not being able to hold the people that I love is beyond me, especially while they're in pain and while they're grieving.
Okay, so it's probably time to put the Vandals on there and jump about, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
his girlfriend's just died.
So what's your next song, mate?
Oh, I think the next song's on the same vein, really. And this one goes out to Jay Arthur and to Joey, because RJ works in the testing labs in Boston, and I know she loves a bit of the Dropkick Murphys. And Joey, a friend of ours, has just retired from the labs where they test for viruses. And without question, in a heartbeat, she went to work to save this country. And, you know, those two women, they're better than Boris Johnson. They're better than Dominic Raab. They put themselves at risk every day for the people of this country. And for that, we owe them a debt of gratitude. Such wonderful women.
Isn't Joey's husband more beneficial to society than Joey, though? I mean, he does.
No, just because he's our drummer, that don't work. No.
Yeah.
No.
Call out to Dick on there, drummer for activism. So, what is your song?
My song it's a Christmas song, but you gotta watch this video. This video, you know, if I'm upset, which I often am because I'm a bit of a soft song, when you put this video on, it fair makes me laugh. Because it's called The Season's Upon Us, and it's by the Dropkick Murphys, and it's basically a Christmas video, and it basically says, my family's nuts, and this is how it is round here. And, I mean, I suppose I had quite an odd upbringing in that my parents didn't drink, and didn't drink an awful lot at all. So it was kind of an eating competition and an arguing competition. But the Murphys seem to do it better, and everyone gets a bit drunk, and everybody like sits on Grandad's knee and gives him a snog and all this kind of stuff. And it is blinking marvellous. And I know Christmas is a long way away, but I love a bit of the Murphys. And anything that can make me feet tap and make me want to dance, I'm your girl. I'm kind of up there. So to Jay, to Joey, to Lisa, to all of our friends who are out there putting themselves on the line, just look after yourselves the best you can. And may God have mercy on the people who call themselves our rulers for putting you in harm's way with insufficient protection against danger. You know, I don't give a damn about Trident or money for nuclear, but if we can find money for that, how the hell we can't find money for hand sanitizer or plastic gloves is a little bit beyond me, because I think the prices differ a little.
Yeah, and thanks to all the ladies taking part in this Girls on Loud weekend.
Girl power!
Right. What was your last song again? Sorry?
It was called The Season's Upon Us, and it was by Dropkick.
Brilliant. Good. Just to
You're going
reiterate,
senile.
just to reiterate that point, is Dropkick Murphys, the season is upon us. Any last words, Rachel, before I kill you?
Oh, her. Any last words? I suppose I'm in love with Jacinda. Looking at New Zealand, they seem to have things right. For the last couple of years, they've been talking about measuring a country's success by how happy its population is, rather than how much money's in the bank. And I think the sad bit for me is during this coronavirus, while we're all going skint and struggling, and people are struggling just to feed their babies, the richest people in our world are getting richer. And that can only be horrific, because if they put their money where their mouth is, if they only gave 1% of what they've got, everything would be sorted. If the richest people in the world gave 1%, everything would be sorted. And it's shameful. And it's no wonder they've got plans to go and live on a desert island somewhere to avoid the rampaging normal people. Because we've been told so many lies for so long. And I think one thing this crisis has brought into the open is what matters is the smile across the car park, helping the woman down the road. We had a woman walk past ours the other day. I looked out the window. She was so heavy laden, she couldn't walk a step further. So I went out and said, do you want to leave some of your bags here? And this woman was so delighted.
Well,
so I've got a new friend, and her name's Lynn. And that's all it's about. All it's about is noticing that other people are struggling. I give £3 away for trolleys, because when you see somebody who's left the whole of their family to keep them safe, looking for £1 shouldn't be high on their list of things to do. So what I'd like to say is keep safe, but mostly if you've got a little bit to spare, send it to my babies. And I, for one, will be great. Thank you.
Thanks for being on, Rachel Joy Eagling.
See you in a minute, husband.
See you in a minute.